Zoe looks like a random one-shot champion, but that's not why people lose on her. Most Zoe players aren't missing, they're forcing. They lose because they don't control space. If you're throwing bubbles randomly, fishing with Q, or hoping enemies walk into you, you're already playing her wrong. Zoe doesn't win by spamming abilities. She wins by creating pressure and forcing mistakes that guarantee picks. In this guide, I'll show you how to make Zoe consistent without relying on random bubbles or coin flip damage, so you can control fights, create picks, and actually carry games with her. Let's get into it. Let's quickly lock in what Zoe brings to the table. Zoe excels at deleting targets with high upfront damage, using sleep setups and extended Q combos to instantly remove squishy champions before fights can properly begin. Sleepy Trouble Bubble gives Zoe constant pick threat, allowing her to catch enemies from fog, over walls, or at range, turning small mistakes into guaranteed kills. With Spell Thief, Zoe can pick up summoner spells and active items, creating unpredictable plays and adapting to fights in most ways champions simply can't. Zoe can threaten enemies far beyond normal distances, using extended Q angles, portal jumps, and wall bubbles to control space and force enemies to respect her range at all times. Zoe rewards precision and creativity, with her effectiveness heavily tied to positioning, setup, and execution rather than simple ability usage. But that power comes at real risks, so let's break down Zoe's weaknesses. Zoe is extremely fragile, meaning any misstep, miss cooldown, or bad positioning can instantly get her killed before she has a chance to impact the fight. Zoe's damage and setup depend entirely on landing her abilities, so missing key skill shots often leaves her with little to no pressure in trades or fights. Sleepy Trouble Bubble can be game-changing, but it's a slow, narrow skill shot that can be dodged or blocked, making her primary pick tool inconsistent if not used carefully. Zoe struggles against high health or magic resistant targets, often lacking the sustained damage needed to threaten frontline champions in extended fights. Zoe demands anticipation and fast reactions, rewarding players who can predict enemy responses and instantly convert summoner spell pickups into plays. Those are Zoe's biggest strengths and weaknesses overall. Zoe's passive isn't just extra damage, it's a key part of how she trades. Zoe empowers her next auto after every ability. Most players ignore their autos and rely on abilities, losing a lot of their damage in the process. Weave autos between every spell. There's no cooldown, so every ability, even your ultimate, gives you another empowered hit. Use passive autos on everything to take them down faster. Waves, towers, and objectives. This ability is where a lot of Zoe's damage comes from, but it's easy to use too greedily. Paddlestar is a two-part skill shot that Zoe can redirect, and it deals more damage the farther it travels. Most players tunnel on maximum range damage, but that also gives enemies more time to react and dodge. Good Zoe players focus on the cleanest angle they can actually land. If minions or targets can block the return, throw it forward or curve it around for consistent hits. When you need to reach targets that would normally be out of range, use Flash, your ultimate, or other actives right before Q lands. Look for group targets. The AoE splash damage can hit multiple enemies in fights. Use Q frequently in lane. It has a low mana cost, so don't be afraid to spam it for poke and wave clear. This ability looks chaotic, but it can completely decide fights when used well. Using a picked up spell gives Zoe a burst of movement speed and summons 3 orbiting bolts that deal extra damage. Enemies drop spell shards whenever they use summoner spells or items, which Zoe can pick up and use. A common mistake is using W the moment you pick it up, wasting a lot of its potential. Hold on to strong shards. The longer you keep them, the more pressure you create. Adapt your play based on what you pick up. Each spell gives you a different way to trade, escape, or create a play. W has no cooldown. As long as there are spell shards, you can keep using it to chain plays in skirmishes and teamfights. And don't forget, after using a shard, those passive bolts add up quickly, and can be the difference between kills and enemies getting away. This ability decides whether Zoe creates picks or does nothing at all. Sleepy Trouble Bubble is a skill shot that puts enemies to sleep, causing the next hit that wakes them up to deal extra damage. A common mistake is throwing a bubble randomly, hoping it hits. and when it misses, you lose all pressure. Hold bubble as a threat, not just a tool. Enemies play differently when it's available. You don't need to cast it to gain value. Use bubble through walls to extend its range. Terrain stretches the cast, making it harder to react to and giving Zoe strong pick potential around walls. If bubble doesn't hit, it leaves a zone on the ground. Use it to block tight entrances and control space. Force enemies to walk around or risk getting hit. Stay behind walls or in brushes around lanes, making sure you have good vision. Zoe has huge pressure in these areas. Pay attention to hits out of vision. The butterfly animation and sound cues show exactly where to aim when using the bubble from fog or brush. This ability looks like mobility, but it can easily get you killed if used carelessly. Portal Jump briefly blinks Zoe forward before snapping her back to her original position, letting her reposition to cast abilities or dodge threats. It's easy to treat it like safety mobility, but your return point is predictable and can be punished. Use it for positioning and setting up your abilities, not as a way to chase or escape. Use R to extend your Q for maximum damage. Throw Q backwards, then R forward and redirect Q for a much longer travel distance. It can dodge certain skill shots if timed well. Use it to pick up spell shards from a safer distance. Use it to check vision over walls and into brushes. You can even ward areas slightly further away, which is great around Dragon and Baron. Used well, this ability opens up a lot of playmaking potential. Max Q first. It's your main damage, poke and wave clear tool. Max E second. It increases your burst and lowers the cooldown on your main pick ability. And Max W last. It has no cooldown and it's used situationally throughout spell shards. Take points in R whenever available. Most players don't realize Zoe can proc her passive twice in a single trade, and she can already do this at level 1. You'll need to be within auto range. Q in any direction, usually around minions, auto attack, recast Q, then finish with another auto. It's fast, reliable, and one of the easiest ways to win an early trade with Zoe. Q, auto, Q, auto. This is one of the highest damage trade combos in all of League, and when executed properly, very few champions can match it. Use this after landing E to convert a pick into a guaranteed high damage trade. After E lands, throw Q behind you or around minions, then recast it onto the sleeping target. Let the Q connect first, then instantly follow with an auto attack. Do not auto attack before Q lands, you'll lose a large portion of your damage and it gives the enemy a chance to dodge the returning Q. This makes it one of the most feared early trade combos in the game. E, Q, Q auto. This is a simple long-range poke that's almost risk-free, and most enemies won't see it coming. Throw Q backwards, then recast it towards the target, or where you'll think they'll move. Use R at the very end to close the distance, and then finish with an auto if you're in range. This is especially effective when enemies don't have vision of you. Use this to poke enemies from fog of war or over walls. Safe, simple, and most enemies won't dodge it if you guess correctly. Q, Q, R auto attack. This is a long range poke that gives you more control over your damage at the last second. Throw Q backwards, use R towards the target, then recast Q and finish with an auto if you're in range. This is better than the surprise poke when enemies have vision of you, as it lets you adjust the trajectory at the last moment and makes it harder to dodge. Q, R, Q auto. If you ever land E at long range, this is how you turn it into maximum damage. Once you've landed E, whether from long range or when an enemy walks into the puddle, throw Q backwards, use R towards the target, then recast Q and finish with an auto if you're in range. This is Zoe's highest damage combo. When the opportunity shows up, you need to be ready to execute it. E, Q, R, Q auto. Stop wasting damage when you land E at close range. This is how you get the maximum out of it. Once you've landed E at close range, use R away from the target, throw Q backwards to extend the distance, then redirect it back onto the sleeping target and finish with an auto if you're in range. You have to be quick with this. As soon as E lands, set it up immediately or the enemy may wake up. Do not auto attack first, make sure you don't wake them up before your Q connects. E, R, Q, Q auto. Landing E consistently is what separates good Zoe players from great ones, and this is the easiest way to do it. If it misses, back off immediately and don't commit further. If it lands, follow up with your full combo for maximum damage. Most players panic and sidestep as soon as you appear, so aim your E slightly to the side to catch them out. R, E, Q, Q auto. These are your core combos. Lock them in. Electrocute is your go-to for burst. Zoe can proc it easily with her combos, making it the best option if you're looking to one-shot squishy targets and maximize your damage in a single rotation. If your goal is to pick off targets and deal high burst damage, take Electrocute. Summon Aerie gives you more consistent damage, especially in lanes where you can auto-attack frequently and apply constant poke with your abilities and passive. You lose some burst, but you gain much more reliable damage over time, making it strong for extended trades and pressure in lane. Both are equally strong. It mainly depends on your lane and the enemy team comp. You won't go wrong with either, so pick based on whether you want burst or consistency. Start Doran's Ring plus 2 health pots every game. Gives you everything you need early: AP, sustain, and survivability. Your first major buy is Luden's Echo. This gives you the highest burst potential and is your main power spike for one-shotting targets. Your main choice for boots is Sorcerer's Shoes for maximum damage through magic penetration. If you need a cheaper, earlier spike, or you're slightly behind, go Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Lichbane is one of your best items, especially if you're consistently weaving in auto attacks. Shadow Flame is a strong AP power spike and great for increasing your overall damage. Rabadon's Death Cap is your biggest damage spike. Take it when you're ahead and can afford it. Zhonya's Hourglass, best defensive option. You can full combo, activate Zhonya's, and safely return with your R. Banshee's Veil, take this against CC or pick threats. Horizon Focus is a strong AP spike that also reveals enemies and is useful for long range picks and vision. If you're looking to snowball or more aggressive options, take Magi Soul Stealer. Hextech Rocket Belt adds extra mobility and playmaking. You can take this early if you want more outplay potential. And when it comes late game, make sure you get Void Staff or Crypto Bloom. You're going to need these for dealing with tanks who stack magic resist. As for summoner spells, Flash is mandatory. It gives you escape, repositioning, and combo potential. Never skip this. Ignite is your most common second summoner. It gives you kill pressure, helps finish off targets, and adds extra damage to your combo. If you're looking to play aggressively and snowball, take Ignite. Ghost is a strong alternative that's been gaining popularity. It gives you sustained mobility for both chasing and escaping, and helps you with positioning in fights. If you want more safety and movement instead of raw kill pressure, take Ghost. Zoe's gameplay is built around one idea: pressure the enemy before they can play the game. In lane, you want to push early and create space. When the wave is pushed, it becomes much easier to land your E and long range Qs without minions blocking you. Whenever possible, try to hit both the wave and the champion at the same time with your Q. Most players will stand behind the wave for safety, so using the splash damage lets you slowly chip them down. When you're pushing consistently, the enemy is forced to use abilities on the wave. That's your window to poke, trade, and look for a bubble. The worst position you can be as Zoe is stuck under your tower, using spells just to farm. That removes your pressure and makes it much harder to play the lane. Your first goal is to get Lost Chapter. Once you have it, mana is no longer an issue, and you can maintain constant pressure with Q. Zoe is extremely strong in early skirmishes, especially around river and jungle. If your jungler is invading or a fight is likely, push the wave and be ready to move first. In these fights, focus one target. Zoe is a burst champion, so whoever you land E on should immediately become the priority. Ping them and commit to the pick. Even if the wave is near your tower, you can still look for plays. If your jungler comes mid, you can flash E to guarantee a bubble, which often leads to a kill. After level 6, you gain safer ways to pressure. You can use R to find E angles, poke from range, and harass enemies under the tower, even avoiding tower shots if timed correctly. Try to play around walls and fog of war whenever possible. Zoe becomes much stronger when enemies can't see where you're casting from. Once you complete Ludens, your damage becomes a real threat, and you can start looking for one-shots on squishy targets. Zoe has strong roaming potential. Surprise enemies with long-range E's through walls. Chaotic fights around bot lane or even top are great, as fights give you more summoner spells to work with. Finally, Zoe excels in objective fights around Dragon and Herald, where walls and limited vision make it much easier to find picks before fights even begin. Mid-game is where Zoe starts to fully take over the game. At this point, you'll usually have 2 to 3 AP items, which means any E you land on a squishy target will almost always result in a kill. Because of this, your main focus is making picks, with or without your team. A single pick can instantly open up the map, allowing your team to take objectives or force fights with a numbers advantage. Sieging and dives are also effective. You can use your range and R to deal heavy damage from a safe distance. Side laning on Zoe is more situational. She doesn't have the best escapes, so you need to be careful when pushing side waves. You can clear waves when needed, but avoid overextending unless you have the right summoner spells or pickups to stay safe. As mid-game progresses, it's important to look to close out the game while you're strong. Zoe has incredible snowball potential, but her one-shot threat becomes less reliable over time as enemies start building defensive items like Zhonya's Banshees or Guardian Angel. It's not that Zoe becomes weak, but the game becomes much harder the longer it goes. So when you have a lead, focus on creating picks, securing objectives, and pushing your advantage before the enemy has time to recover. In teamfights, your goal is to create an advantage before the fight fully begins. Look for picks or heavy poke from range, especially on squishy targets. If you can chunk or remove someone early, the fight becomes much easier for your team. Positioning is very important here. You never want to be the first one caught, as staying alive gives you more time to find picks, pick up summoner spells, and continue dealing damage throughout the fight. Focus your E and Q on the backline whenever possible. Zoe is most effective when threatening carries rather than hitting frontline targets. She also excels at cleaning up fights. As enemies drop low and more summoner spells and actives become available, you gain more opportunities to chase, reposition, and finish off kills. Before fights begin, you can use E to control choke points. This can force enemies to delay, reposition, or avoid entering the fight entirely. Look for Q angles when enemies group up, as AoE splash damage can heavily impact multiple targets at once. Finally, if you have a fair teammate, you can play around them. Use your damage E and any defensive pickups to help keep them alive while they carry the fight. Late game plays very similar to mid game, but mistakes are punished much harder. At the same time, one good E can still decide the entire fight, so always look for those high value picks. Pay attention to enemy cooldowns. Targets without flash or key abilities are much easier to catch and should be your priority. Before committing, try to remove defensive passives like Banshees or Edge of Night, so your bubble can connect when it matters. Damage also becomes less reliable, so consider finishing Void Staff if enemies are stacking magic resist. Fights will be more grouped and structured, which makes picks harder, but can also be more rewarding if you find the right angle. Zoe's still strong here, but you need to play cleaner and more patiently. If you stay disciplined and find the right target, one bubble is all it takes to win the fight and eventually win the game. Most Zoe players lose trades without even realizing why. Your passive isn't just tied to abilities, it also applies through your W bolts. That means every time you pick up a spell and trigger W, those orbiting hits can carry passive damage too. The problem? Most players throw abilities and stop there. Enemies will naturally hide behind minions to dodge your E, which means your autos become your most consistent damage tool in lane. Your passive follows your last auto. If you don't auto the champion, it'll hit minions instead, and you'll lose damage. Weave autos constantly, especially after Q or during W procs, and you'll start winning lanes off pressure alone. More autos, more damage, more wins. This can win you lane at level 1. Throw your Q first backwards in Fog of War, then walk up and redirect it forward. They don't see the setup, so it's much harder to react. If it hits, you chunk them. If it misses, you still hit the wave and get the push. There's basically no downside, just don't do it in vision. This lets you check brushes with very little risk. Use your Q into the brush or Fog of War. The animation and sound will tell you if it hits someone. No need to face check, you get the info safely. Want max Q damage without thinking about numbers? Zoe's Q scales with distance, but it caps at around 150% damage. A long range R plus Q already hits around 140%. Add flash and you're basically maxed every time. Don't overthink it. Full range equals full damage. Zoe isn't just damage, she can save fights too. Your W gives you tools like Heal Exhaust, slows like Randuin's, speed from Shurelya's, or Locket Shield. You can peel, disengage, or keep a teammate alive long enough to turn the fight. Be creative with it. Sometimes saving a fed teammate wins more fights than chasing a kill. You don't have to pick up W instantly. You can hold one spell, then grab another right after to chain 2 actives in a fight. That means double utility, double impact. Don't rush pickups, time them. Always think one step ahead on Zoe. Anticipate enemy summoner spells, flash, ignite, and be ready to pick them up instantly. You can turn their escape into your engage or their play into your escape. Think ahead before the fight even starts. No ignite, just use theirs. You can get a free reset with W. If you pick up Ghost, Shurelya's, or any movement speed shard, use it on the way back to lane. Even something like Barrier about to expire, just use it. You've only got limited time anyway. Don't waste it, turn it into tempo. Not all W items are equal. The best ones give you instant value at range, like gap close, speed, or safety. Items that deal 80 damage or you need to walk up, they are much weaker on Zoe. If you have a choice, take the higher value option. Did you know you can flash without using your flash? If you have flash on W, pressing your normal D or F key will use the W flash, not your summoner spell. Most players don't realize this. It saves your real flash cooldown and lets you use your normal muscle memory in combos. See flash on W? Just press your flash key. Your W shards aren't just spells, they're mini wards. They reveal a small area, enough to spot enemies walking over them in fog. But if a spell is used out of vision, you won't see the spell shard until you have vision. Use them to scout, don't rely on them blindly. Never waste a bad W in the middle of a fight. If you want to get rid of something like Zhonya's or Ignite, don't force it. Using it at the wrong time can get you killed. Instead, walk over a new shard and click it to swap. Just walking over it isn't enough. Swap it safely, don't grief yourself trying to use it. 3 Zoe zoning tricks that win fights. Place your bubble right on the edge of a brush. It's hidden and enemies get hit as soon as they walk in. The unseen bubble is the deadliest. Drop E on Zhonya's Guardian Angel or Zilean ult. They wake up, instantly asleep, no flash, no escape. Defensive ability deleted. Your E goes invisible near the end. Some players won't see it and walk straight into it. You can't force it, but be ready. Anticipation gets rewarded. 2 Zoe mind games that make your E impossible to dodge. Use the wave to hide your E. Cast it as a minion is about to die, or aim it through small gaps. Players won't see it coming. If they don't see it, they can't dodge it. Hold your E. Enemies will panic, sidestep, and burn movement trying to dodge it. Wait until they're close, then land it point blank. Make them panic, then punish it. Most players don't know this about Ignite. Even though damage normally wakes up enemies from sleep, Ignite doesn't. You can use it early without breaking your E. This is perfect for extra damage or setting up your next W pickup. Ignite early, combo safely. Stop guessing your E range. Some walls are deceptive. It's not always clear if your bubble will go through. Use the range indicator. Switch to normal cast or hold Alt Control Shift while casting to see the distance, making your E more reliable. See it, don't guess it. Terrain is meant to stop you, not for Zoe. Whether it's an ally or enemy terrain, you can use it to extend your E range even further. It also gives you a safe barrier to play around with your R. Turn their terrain into your advantage. Zoe isn't just damage, she can save fights too. You can R forward and tank hooks like Blitz or Thresh, then snap back safely. The engage just disappears. You can also R in front of skill shots like Ash Arrow, tank it and return, or even have cleanse ready to completely nullify it. Let them engage, it won't matter. This is a high risk, high reward level 2 option. If you've already chunked your opponent, you can take W at level 2. There's a good chance a balloon drops, giving you a spell, extra damage and movement speed. If they panic and use flash or ignite, you can pick it up and instantly turn the fight. But if nothing drops or you don't get them low first, W gives you almost nothing. Only take it at level 2 if you see the kill angle. One of the most frustrating things on Zoe isn't even your fault. When you land your bubble, you need the target to stay asleep. so you can line up your full Q. But a lot of teammates will hit them early, waking them up instantly, and now your entire combo misses. If this keeps happening, it's not your mechanics, it's your timing getting ruined. Zoe doesn't just have combos, she has creative ones. This lets Zoe hit Qs from range that shouldn't be possible. Start by throwing your Q backwards, then redirect it forwards. As it travels towards your target, flash at the very last moment to extend the hit. This is best used to finish off low HP enemies who think they're safe at distance. The tighter your flash timing, the less time enemies have to react, making it almost impossible to dodge. Most players get Zoe's E flash completely wrong, and it costs them the pick. You can't pre-buffer E like other champions. If you throw E first then flash, it won't extend the range. Instead, flash first then instantly cast E to catch enemies off guard from unexpected range. This is perfect for making picks, setting up ganks, or starting your full combo when enemies think they're safe. Once you learn it properly, it becomes one of Zoe's most reliable ways to force catches. When you need a game-changing pick, this is Zoe's longest range engage. Start with your ultimate to reposition, then flash mid-cast to extend even further, and instantly follow with E to catch enemies completely off guard. This is best saved for high-value targets or late-game picks where one catch can decide the fight. When the timing is right, this combo can reach targets from distances they won't expect or react to. This is Zoe's longest range poke, and it can finish kills from screens away. Start by throwing your Q backwards, then redirect it forward. Use R to reposition closer, then flash and instantly auto-attack to secure the damage. This is best used to finish off low HP enemies from extreme range, especially after landing a long-range E where you need the extra distance to connect your Q. The faster and cleaner you execute it, the harder it is to see, and the more reliable it becomes. Q, Q, R, flash auto. If one flash isn't enough, Zoe can stack them to hit targets from absurd distances. Start by throwing your Q backwards, then redirect it forwards and use multiple flashes mid-flight to extend the range far beyond what enemies expect. This is best used to finish off targets from extreme distance when you have an extra flash available through spell shards, turning what looks safe into a guaranteed hit. Just keep in mind, additional flashes only increase range, not damage, so you're trading resources purely for reach. Q, Q, flash, flash. This is a setup almost no one expects, and it can win you picks out of nowhere. Use Hex Flash from Fog or a brush to suddenly close distance, then instantly cast E to catch enemies completely off guard. This is especially strong around bot lane brushes or tight vision areas, where you can repeatedly threaten engages from angles enemies don't respect. Once you have your ultimate, you can extend this further by following up with R for maximum reach. New rune, new angles. Hexaflash, R, E. Zoe can even use the map itself to extend her damage. Start by throwing Q backwards, then immediately auto-attack the blast cone and quickly redirect your Q forward as you're launched to massively extend the range. This is best used when the opportunity presents itself around the jungle fights or objectives, turning terrain into extra reach your enemies won't expect. With Chemtech Dragon terrain, blast cones can launch you even further. Different map, different angles. Rocket Belt turns Zoe into a pseudo-engaged champion, giving her reach she normally doesn't have. You can use Rocket Belt to extend your Q range and secure damage from further away. It also lets you instantly close distance to land E, catching enemies who think they're out of range. And with your ultimate, you can push this even further, chaining R with Rocket Belt into E to force picks from unexpected distances. Used properly, Rocket Belt doesn't just add damage, it opens up entirely new ways to catch targets. This makes Zoe's bubble almost impossible to block. Enemies have nowhere to hide. Throw your E toward a target hiding behind minions, then instantly smite the minion to remove it and let the bubble connect. This completely bypasses one of Zoe's biggest weaknesses, enemies using minions as cover. Used properly, it turns safe positioning into guaranteed picks. Once you add this, your E becomes much harder to play against. Zoe is the only non-jungler in the game who can suddenly turn into a second smite. By picking up smite from spell shards, you gain the ability to secure or steal major objectives alongside your burst damage. This gives you real threat around dragons and barons, especially when combined with your Q and passive damage. In the right moment, you're not just poking, you're contesting objectives like a jungler. One pickup can completely change the game. Stop clearing waves like this, you're wasting damage. Instead of throwing Q normally, use your R to reposition away and cast Q backwards, then redirect it forward to the wave for maximum distance and damage. This is perfect for fast wave clear or hitting stationary targets like objectives where dodging isn't a factor. Build this habit and your damage becomes instantly more consistent. This is a small trick, but it can completely catch enemies off guard. Start by throwing your Q backwards, then cast E and instantly redirect Q at the same time, cancelling E animation. This makes it much harder for enemies to see the bubble coming, as they'll often think it's just your Q. It's not optimal for damage, but when you're being chased or need a quick catch, this can turn situations in your favor. A small trick, but in the right moment, it makes a big difference. Zoe rewards players who improvise. If the opportunity shows, take it. Before breaking matchups down into easy, medium, and hard, it's important to understand Zoe's core goal in lane. Your primary objective is to create pressure through poke while staying safe enough to avoid being punished. Lane isn't about forcing constant fights. It's about landing Qs, controlling space, and finding windows to land E when the enemy mispositions. Most of your damage comes from whittling down opponents over time, then looking for a bubble that can lead to a kill or force them out of lane. Especially after level 6, when you can safely look for longer range setups with your R. Zoe scales very well through items and pick potential, but her effectiveness depends heavily on positioning, vision, and landing key skill shots. These are matchups where Zoe can generally control the lane and apply consistent pressure without major risks. In these lanes, your range, poke, and wave control naturally give you the advantage. You're usually able to push, chip the enemy down, and look for bubbles while they struggle to respond effectively. Many of these champions rely on predictable positioning or standing behind the minion wave, which makes them easy to punish with Q splash damage and well-placed E angles. Even if they try to trade back, your range and ability to disengage with E often allows you to come out ahead. Small poke advantages stack quickly, giving you control of the lane and eventually setting up kill pressure. Mistakes are more forgiving here, and you're usually the one deciding when and how trades happen. Medium matchups are more skill dependent and situational. These lanes often involve skill-based trading and spacing, champions that can punish you if you miss position, and matchups that shift depending on cooldown, wave state, or vision. Some of these lanes can feel manageable early but become harder later on, while others start rough and improve once you gain items and range. Execution matters more than the matchup itself. Landing your poke, managing spacing, and tracking key abilities will usually decide who controls the lane. You don't always need to win these lanes outright. Staying even while maintaining pressure and looking for picks or roams is often enough. Hard matchups are champions that can punish Zoe's positioning or limit her ability to safely land poke and bubbles. This can be due to high mobility that makes skill shots difficult to land, strong all-in or burst that punishes mispositioning, assassins that can quickly close the gap, and champions that can dodge, block, or ignore your poke. In these lanes, your goal shifts from controlling the lane to playing safely and waiting for opportunities. Key principles for hard matchups. Play at max range and avoid unnecessary risks. Respect enemy engage and don't overextend for poke. Look for short poke windows rather than committing too much. Use the wave and positioning to stay safe. Focus on farm experience and avoiding deaths. Look for opportunities to roam or impact skirmishes instead. If you leave lane even or only slightly behind, you've done your job. Discipline and patience matter more than forcing plays. Don't stress if some matchups feel difficult or if you fall behind slightly early. Zoe isn't just about dominating every lane, she's about finding the right moments. As long as you're staying alive, applying pressure where you can, and looking for picks when opportunities appear, you're playing the champion correctly. Stay patient, find your targets, and one bubble is all it takes to turn the game. Zoe can also be played as a support, and while it's more niche, it can be very effective in the right hands. Most of what we've learnt in this guide still applies. Your combos, positioning, and pick potential all carry over directly. As a support, your role shifts slightly. You're no longer the main damage source. Instead, you're looking to harass, control space, and create picks for your team. In lane, look to constantly pressure with Q and play around walls and fog of war with your E. If you ever land a bubble, make sure to ping and commit. Your strength comes from turning those catches into kills. Bot lane also gives you more opportunities to pick up spell shards with 2 enemy champions constantly using summoners. For setup, you'll usually want to run Electrocute and upgrade your support item into Zazak's Royal Spike for damage. If you need more survivability or utility, Celestial Opposition is also a solid option. You can also make use of tools like Hex Flash to create unexpected angles from brushes, especially in bot lane where positioning is tighter. And once you unlock your ultimate, you gain a unique advantage. You can safely scout and place wards using R without putting yourself at risk. In fights, look to either set up picks with E or follow up your team's CC. You don't always need to force first. Sometimes it's better to wait and chain your bubble after an ally has landed their ability. Zoe support is less consistent than mid. If you fall behind, your damage drops off quickly, and against high mobility champions it can be difficult to find value. You're also very squishy, and your team may lack a frontline depending on the draft. Because of this, it's best to treat Zoe support as a secondary option once you're already comfortable with her core playstyle at mid. Played well, Zoe support can catch enemies off guard, but it rewards precision just as much as mid. And that's how Zoe wins games, not by forcing every fight, but by finding the right moment, landing the perfect bubble, and turning picks into instant advantages. If this guide helped, consider subscribing for more champion guides like this. I'm Zeus, and I'll see you in the next one.